Tony. I'm Mike. We're here to watch the world burn. This episode 54, we are covering Dario Argento's Mother's Trilogy. We're talking Susperia. We're talking Inferno. We're talking Mother of Tears. We're talking finally, we get some good Italian horror. Not the Bruno shit, the good shit. Yes.
That's just hateful.
But true. Sad but true.
Bruno loves you.
I love Bruno too. I just don't love your horror, baby. Sorry. But we're talking some Italian horror. We're talking some giallo. Can you tell us about giallo?
Technically, this isn't giallo, but giallo. Normally, and the reason it's not giallo is because there is a lot of supernatural elements in this. And this was actually a departure for Dario Argento because he did the Animals trilogy prior to this, and that is considered like essential giallo films. And then prior to that, he was writing scripts for Sergio Leone. So I mean, he's established at this point. He's no one to be trifled with as far as Italian cinema legends go. But so he wrote for Sergio Leone. Then he went off. He did his Animal trilogies, which was the
Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Cat o' Nine Tails, and Four Flies on Grey Velvet.
Yep. And then after he did those four, which are considered classics of the giallo genre, and I love all of those films, some of them more than others.
I've seen Bird with the Crystal Plumage. That's really good. I haven't seen the other two yet. So.
They're definitely worth your time. I'm not going to get bogged down in this one, but I'm also going to say, if I'm not mistaken, Dario Argento discovered Jennifer Connelly.
She was in Phenomenon, but I don't know if that's Phenomenon was an Argento film or not.
I think it was. I'm not positive on that one. But anyway, yeah, she came from Italian cinema. You're welcome.
Well, okay, let's back up a bit. Let's talk about.
Well, giallo tends to basically be the Italian version of film noir, except for instead of everything being harsh shadows and harsh lighting and that kind of thing, it's very bright, almost garish, nightmarish colors and very stylized lighting, and it's almost psychedelic in a way, which is kind of a, grew out of 60s cinema. But it's done straight. It's done for effect, and it's done to basically elicit emotion and do a lot of visual storytelling because it's Italian cinema, and they film it in Italian, and then they dub it into whatever language you happen to watch it in.
But see, I always thought giallo was kind of like a mix of stuff. It's kind of like a mix of noir mixed with your horror and suspense and stuff like that. Now, I understand there's not supposed to be a whole lot of supernatural involved in it, but I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, it tends to be more in line of the thriller subgenre, and most often is the case. It's a murderer, there's a mystery. So, I mean, all that plays right into film noir and the classic hard-boiled detective thing, but it's almost never a detective that's actually doing it. It's like a guy who writes books or a lonely housewife who happens to notice weird shit going on. It's definitely influenced by film noir. It's influenced by Hitchcock. It's influenced by the color palettes and the fact that you could do cheap Technicolor. Finally, color wasn't like outside of the realm of modest budgeted films. There's a lot of talent that got discovered during this period of time. A lot of international talent that wound up in a lot of American cinema. And I don't want to get too bogged down into all that one because that's a whole hour-long video by itself.
Yeah.
But then after Dario Argento did the Animal trilogy, then he decided he had been influenced by a bunch of stuff that he had been reading, and he decided that he wanted to kind of do his own stories and tie it to witchcraft and Jungian archetypes. And so he and it was Dario. Who was the other writer on this one? It's
I got it marked down when we get actually into the individual movies.
He'll throw the name right here. But anyway, so he decided he wanted to do it. He did Susperia. Susperia was hugely critically acclaimed and unlike anything that a lot of audiences had ever seen ever. And it was so good that he went right on and did Inferno. And then Dario Argento kind of fell out of favor. Italian cinema in general kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah.
And so it took him 27 years to actually get to do the third film in the trilogy.
I'll throw it up here when Mother of Tears came out.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a legend. He's kind of tarnished. his reputation a bit. I still love Dario Argento, and I love his films, and I'm happy to watch anything with his name attached to it. But after the heyday of the early 80s on that one, critically, nothing he did landed. From a financial standpoint, nothing he did landed. So he lived long enough to see himself become the villain. But only in certain people's eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, sadly, in the mid 80s and onward, Italian cinema in general, just they couldn't get the budgets, they couldn't get the talent. They still had something to say. They still have plenty to say. It's just that it was no longer important, and I don't know why. They brought so much to the table. They gave so much to mid-century cinema. And it just seems like everybody had kind of moved on at that point. So there's a lesson to be learned in there somewhere, but I'm not going to bother. You can think about it and throw it down in the comments below. Yeah.
So getting back to the Mother's Trilogy here, he was influenced by works written by Thomas de Quincey, I believe is what name is.
Yeah.
And the name of the thing was Susperia de Profundis.
Yes.
Which is where he gets his...
Dreams of the Deep.
No, I think it was... oh, geez, what the hell is
it's
it?
okay. I have notes.
It was Our Lady of Tears or something. No, hang on.
No. Wait. Okay, so Suspiria de Profundis is Sighs from the Depths.
That was it. Thank you.
And the funny thing about this is that Mr. De Quincey was a very, very big fan of altered chemical living. And he had written a series of books, a series of shorts about his experiences with opium, and then this one was his experience with hallucinogenics. And so I'm sure it's every bit as coherent as that probably sounds. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that if you were in the room when he was telling this story, it was awesome. But when he tried to put it into words, into prose, you're probably all like, But somehow this bit of literature survived, and it manages to influence. So it's the original version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I was right in the middle of a fucking reptile zoo. Somebody was giving booze to these goddamn things.
There's nothing new under the sun. This was written in 1850, I think,
1845.
There you go. So yeah, really nothing new under the sun. And just saying, you know what? I'm going to admire his stick-to-itiveness, because he not only wrote it and published it, but then he had several other essays that he wrote, and it was published multiple times, and every time that they republished it, he had new essays to write. So I guess he was just trying things out and seeing how it went. But
it was good enough for film, because here it is.
I was going to say, Suspiria is absolutely, I mean, you can
talking
tell.
about the movie or talking
I'm
about
talking about the movie.
We'll talk about the movie here in just a second.
I was just going to say, you can definitely tell that the style and the look of the film were very much a fever dream. It was obviously heavily influenced by its source material, because there are parts in here that the only way that they make sense is if you're chemically altered.
And we'll talk about that right after this.
You can run from Susperia. You can hide from Susperia. But you cannot escape Susperia. The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Susperia are the first 92.
So, 1977, Susperia, obviously directed by Argento. Screenplay also partially written by Argento.
Yeah.
And Dario Nicolicci.
Nicolicci.
Yes. Wow, I was really close on
Yes,
that one.
you were.
Wow.
You were. Kudos.
Look at me. Starring Jessica Harper as Susie, who's our main star in this one.
Yes.
Stefania Cassini as Sarah, which there's a Sarah in every one of these movies.
I was going to bring that one up when we got into the analysis, but let's just go ahead and knock that one out. Sarah,
No, we'll
Sarah,
talk about it in the
Sarah.
analysis because we got a lot of ground to cover.
Yes, we do.
I guess go ahead if you want to tear to the plot of this.
Well, I was going to say the plot of this is fairly straightforward. She is Suzanne. Is her name. She's an American student. She has been accepted to this very prestigious German dance school. She arrives, there's some weird stuff going on, and she gets brought into the school, and...
Well, the night she arrives is like ridiculous. And this girl comes out the door in like an hysterics saying, there's a secret, the lilacs, the lilies, something like that.
Iris is so...
Well, but as far as Susie's concerned, she don't remember.
Yeah.
So this crazy girl runs off. She's like, what the fuck is going on here? She rings the doorbell and is like, who are you? We're not expecting anybody with that name.
Susie Banyan. I just got in from New York. I don't know you. Go away.
Basically, they realize, oh, well, sorry that you should have been let in last night. We don't know why you weren't. There's a hint of a cover-up going on there, but they tell her, your room's not ready. You can stay with this other girl.
Thanks. My room is really pretty.
Like it?
Uh-huh.
That makes me happy. I bet we'll do nicely together. I think you're sweet.
She goes and stays with that other girl for what
Just one
appears
night.
to be like one night, and then she's kind of told, no, we've got your room ready.
Well, who brought my bags here?
Olga. The minute she heard that you were ill, she went right home and brought your things. When she also left me our $50, and she didn't take a penny of it.
I mean, they're overselling it a little too hard. And if I'm not mistaken, she doesn't appear in any scenes after that.
No, she doesn't.
So
No,
I'm
no, it's not one
thinking
thing.
that, I'm thinking there's a cleanup in aisle 9 on that one. But, and actually that comes into play a little bit later because then Susie gets sick and it's like no one knows the why, but then the doctor starts giving her injections and a specialized diet.
Yeah, they try to say it's like a hemorrhage or some shit like that.
Yeah.
The fault lies with your exercises. When somebody's been out of practice, violent movements can cause tiny tears in internal ligaments. That's the hemorrhaging.
Yeah, her nose started bleeding, and they're like, no, it's just, you overdid it, and you started hemorrhaging. I'm like thinking, if you have blood vessels in your nose bursting spontaneously while you're dancing, you might want to go see a real doctor, not the guy that, Lady Spooky Bitch brings into the school to check up on the students.
Yeah, the house doctor.
Yes, and so that happens, and then there is a storm of maggots in the house, which was really creepy and freaky because she's just sitting there brushing her hair, and then she looks at her comb and realizes that there's maggots in it, and then she looks up and realizes that the whole ceiling is covered in maggots.
They blame it on a bunch of bad meat on the floor above.
That's stored in the attic.
Yeah.
But no one thinks about that one. And then her friend Sarah gets brought into this. They meet very early on. They meet on the first day.
So they shake you up with all that talk about money?
Well, I'm not exactly used to it.
Same with me at first. Then I found out it's a charming habit around here.
But then Sarah and her start to warm to each other because they're both Americans, and so they start chatting, and it turns out that the girl that she ran into that was running out of the house,
Pat was her name.
Yeah, that Sarah and her were very good friends, and that they kind of started to realize that things aren't quite right at the house.
A lot of strange, incredible, absurd events. Pat was taking notes on them for months. And before going away, she gave me all the notes. I've only told one person, a very good friend of mine, Frank Mandel. He's here for a convention.
They start talking about weird things, and they're being watched all the time. But one thing leads to another. Sarah tries to escape, and then she thinks she's in the free and clear, and then she winds up in a room full of razor wire, which made my skin crawl in ways that I didn't realize were possible. And so all of a sudden, Susie has disappeared, and no one knows where she is.
Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sarah disappears.
I'm sorry. Sarah has disappeared, and no one knows where she is.
Looking for Sarah?
She's disappeared.
But that's impossible. I just talked to her last night.
She left this morning, as a matter of fact, without telling anyone. Just packed her bags and left.
So, Susie is like, okay, that don't track at all. So she starts poking around a little bit on her own. She's doing a little bit of the investigating. She goes and she talks.
She meets the psychiatrist of Sarah.
Yeah.
And he gives some information.
She was a patient of mine 3 years ago. After she got better again, we remained friends. But lately she was upset about some notions put into her head by a friend of hers. She had discovered that the Tam Academy was founded in 1895 by a certain Helena Marcos, and that the local people believed her to be a witch.
And then just so happens, while the psychiatrist is there, there's another guy who's a expert in the paranormal, the occult, and stuff like that, and gets some information from her. And that's where you get your real exposition up on this one.
What do witches do?
They are malefic, negative and destructive. Their knowledge of the art of the occult gives them tremendous powers. Their goal is to accumulate great personal wealth, but that can only be achieved by injury to others. A woman becomes queen if her magic is 100 times more powerful than the rest of the coven. Strength rests with its leader, that is, with its head. A coven deprived of its leader is like a headless cobra, harmless.
So the witch's name in this one is Susperia, but her alias is
Helena Marcos.
Yeah, and so and she supposedly disappeared, and then
she supposedly died in a fire.
Yeah,
is what they say, and then she ran the school, which the school at that time was like a school for the occult and dance, but since occult is frowned upon, it became just a school of dance. So that's why
went
it is
out
what
of
it is today.
vogue, I think, is how they expressed it in the film.
Yeah.
And so it just became a school for dance, and then the neighbors accused her of being a witch, and they burned the place to the ground, and then the former head student became the new headmistress of this school, and it's been going ever since then, and so it's this prestigious ballet school where they teach all of the classical styles of ballet, none of this newfangled ballet, because we all know how revolutionary the ballet scene has become in the mid-70s. But
anyways, get back to it. Sarah goes back to the school. I don't know how or why, but she stumbles upon the place where the witches kind of meet up, where the teachers meet.
Actually, she goes back to the hotel, and she runs into one of the servants, and the servant's like, she's like, "Where is everybody?"
Excuse me, where is everybody?
They have all gone to the theater for the opening of the Bolshoi.
Then why didn't anyone tell me about it?
I don't know. Miss Tana obtained tickets for everybody.
And so she's poking around the place by herself. The creepy kitchen staff is there, and she sneaks past, and she gets to go into the hallway where this, I don't know, I guess the servants and teachers live. They did mention earlier in the film that the teachers lived in town, that all of the servants live in town as well, but that seems to be disproved after the maggot rainstorm. But, so she winds up in the hallway, and then she overhears the conversation that the head schoolmistress is like,
I told you. We must get rid of that bitch of an American girl. Vanish. Just vanish. Make her disappear. Understand?
She winds up finding the secret passage in the room.
The secret! Go on, go on. Turn the blue one.
Then she realizes that secret passage goes to
it actually goes to Helena's her room.
Yeah.
So he stumbles up in her room, and then even before that, she discovers Sarah's body, and Sarah's body is jacked up.
Yes.
She's like
Ingots,
crucified, like through the wrist, like Christ, but not like in this pose, but just pinned down to this thing.
It's dark. And then she goes into the room, she thinks she sees the witch, and then Sarah's body comes walking in and attempts to kill her, and she realizes that no, Sarah's body's just being reanimated. She's not the real threat. I'm going to grab this knitting needle out of this peacock that has different colored feather stones on his tail, and I'm going to stab her. I think I saw that old bitch, and she was right. And she stabs her, and then the whole staff bleeds out, and then the house catches fire, and and our lovely leading lady runs out the front door and then walks away as the building burns. It's very Antonio Banderas. And she's like, yeah, and then it burns, and I like watched all the frames through the credits of the house burning because I wanted to make sure no one got out. And it's the end. Now, if this sounds bizarre, it is.
It is.
This movie is not about the story. This movie is about the visuals, the mood, the style. And in that regards, this movie lands like a ton of bricks because this movie is creepy as hell.
Yes.
And it's the closest I can think of to actually getting a dream or a nightmare on film.
Yeah.
It's the visuals are just so bizarre. And like perfectly normal stuff will be going on, and there's always something weird or different or just odd going on in the background.
And not only that, there's different angles. Like, no one thing is shot the same way from the same camera angle. It's all different.
Yeah.
And then the lighting is very unique, too, because, like, all the interior walls are red. Everything above or that's lit, like lit overhead is blue. And just about every scene except for a handful of scenes, to kind of indicate different... it seems like green is almost kind of like a safe space, and the red is like there's some evil foot.
Evil or violence is about to happen.
Yeah.
See, now I actually, there's the color palette on this film. First thing I noticed, all of the main characters in all the film wind up in an all-tan outfit. So in this first film, she arrives, she's in a tan outfit. At the end of it, she's in an outfit that is all tans and browns on that. And I'm sure that that's supposed to be warmth and humanity and that sort of thing. When you see color... And there are literal scenes in this film where, like, it'll be red, and then it'll be a normal colored shot, and then it'll be blue or green or this or that. And somehow, even though it's jarring after you think about it, once you realize what you're seeing, you think, why does that work? But somehow when you're watching it and you're, like, absorbed into the film, you don't notice any of it at all. It's only analysis that you're like, hey, wait a minute, that was weird. It was blue, then it was red, then it was... But... you get what they're going for because they're not using that lighting for, visual effect. They're using it for emotional impact. And in that regards, it's perfectly executed. I'm going to tell you right now that my sense of it is that Dario Argento had, like, here's my color code. If this is going to happen, it's this color. If this is going to happen, it's this color. If this is going to happen, it's this color.
Yeah.
And he stuck to it no matter what.
Yep.
So a director with a vision is really what this all boils down to.
Yeah.
When
there's some times where color didn't quite match. Like, if you're really, because I did pay attention to that, and I'm watching that, like try to pay attention to, like, every frame. I was like, does this actually quite work? And there's a few inconsistencies, but, if you're just watching it just to watch it, you'll never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is one of those films that bears multiple watchings and a lot of study and a lot of appreciation of the effort that went into this. After the maggot storm, which is creepy and freaky in its own right, because like literally, she finds the ones in her comb, she finds them in her hair, she goes out, she tells the I don't know, I guess the floor mom, whatever her name is, the heavy-set German woman that's, very much straight out of a POW camp. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
I know the one. I just can't think of her name.
Then the maggots start coming through and, like, saturating the ceiling, and they're raining down on all the girls that are at the school. And the German lady's just, like, marching, and they make sure to get that shot of her just stomping through them, just to show, like, how determined and what a force of nature she is. The other thing I noticed is that all the staff members for the school, there's the headmistress, and she's a lovely older lady, but every other staff member is disturbing looking. They're all off in one way or another, from the blind pianist to the German school mom, to the two kitchen ladies, to the little kid dressed in completely, like, out of time costuming from Victorian era, I guess. And
don't forget creepy Italian Jaws from the Bond film. Oh, that goofy looking guy.
The visuals in this are so weird, so unnerving. It gets under your skin a little bit. This movie is. I'm not going to tell you it's a hard watch. I'm just going to tell you that the cumulative effect of all the weirdness will really creep you out.
Yeah.
this is kind of a perfect horror film for people that aren't into super gory horror films like slasher films, because again, it's just more about mood. Don't get me wrong, the visuals, the makeup effects are
yeah, there are some brutal scenes in there. Past death is extremely brutal.
Yes.
The very first death in the beginning. And I love how they have to represent the witch, or whatever it is that's killing these people. All it is just one big, nasty, grotesque, white-haired, clawed arm, like a very masculine arm. It's fucked up looking is what it is.
That scene, actually, the timing of it, I knew it was coming. I've seen this one before. I knew it was coming, but man, just because he waited just long enough to where you're not sure if she's just staring out the window and they're going to cut to a shot of her seeing something in the rain or something where like that. And when that arm breaks through the glass, it still get a jump out of me. It's just the timing of it just kind of freaking me out.
And seeing her face is pressed up against the glass, like all just
Distort,
looking.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
distorted, jacked up looking.
And then the cord wraps around her neck and she falls through the stained glass window, and then the very large metal piece and glass piece go through the woman who took her in that night. And when they cut to that shot, it's like, at that point, you know that anything that has red involved in it, it's not going to end well. So.
Yeah. Let's see. There's all those death scenes are graphic and ridiculous. The razor wire scene is, oh god, that was like I said, that was so painful to watch. Like like you felt every move that poor girl was trying to make.
It's as weird as it sounds. It's graphic, yes. I mean, visually, it's represented exactly like you would expect it to be on film, but it doesn't feel gratuitous, and I don't know why. It should, because like her climbing through the razor wire, and you're like, oh God, you're like wincing while you're watching all this, but at no point did I ever feel revulsion. I felt sorry for her. Yeah. I felt pity. I felt like, oh God, that's got to be painful, but at no point was I just kind of like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. We can move on to something else now.
The one death that kind of didn't make sense to me, because when most people die in this film, it's because they know something about the witches,
yes,
or hinted to it. The piano player, for some reason, they just kill him for, I don't know what the reasons were. They say in the movie that the dog attacked somebody.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's real, if that's bullshit, or what the deal was. But that scene, when he dies, when he's walking through that courtyard, that big giant, wherever that is.
Yeah.
And then just walking, hearing noises, you know he's being watched. And then his own dog attacking and killing him was like so out of left field. I mean, it worked. It worked. I mean, it was great, but I like the why escapes me.
I'm gonna tell you what. First off, he worked at the school for years. You really have no idea how old he actually was, because everybody that worked at that school was far older than what they were perceived to be by the students. Number one. Number two, come on, he's been at that school. He knows what's up. You're not working at that school and not knowing that there's some heinous, weird, wacky, witchy shit going on there. So obviously he had to be in the know on that. Now, the setup was literally, oh, your dog attacked somebody, your dog's dangerous. It was a service animal. It was a seeing eye dog. These are trained to have all those kind of experience, all of those instincts are basically trained out of the animal.
Yeah, but basically taunting that dog would be like trying to taunt a English guard, royal guard.
Exactly, exactly. And then if you're watching that when he's walking through the courtyard, the plaza or whatever it is, there is a statue, a demonic-looking statue on top of one of the buildings. And then when they cut back to the building, it's gone. And what they're basically inferring is that the witches have they've used that statue to channel themselves there. They have used it to take possession of the dog. They are the ones attacking the piano player and killing him, but it's the dog's fault. Look, we already know that this dog is violent. It already attacked somebody else. We sorry, it's not us, not our problem.
And the use of animals and possession of animals and familiars is a theme that rolls through all three of these movies as well.
Yes. I actually thought that was one of the most interesting, from a visual storytelling standpoint, the way they set it up, the way that they executed it. And that was, that goes back to like everything black and white, real world, real world, and then the lighting comes in on that one, and you're like, oh, because literally the dog is black and white. The only red that's on it is the red that's on the little cross that's on the dog's little vest. The piano player, everything he's wearing is black and white on that. It's a brilliant use of color, and it's probably the earliest kind of film that I could think of where the palette was so selected. The only kind of cinema I can think of that does this level of palette selection is Asian cinema. A lot of Chinese, like, you know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero, and all those. Color indicates the mood, the feel, the emotion.
Actually, I was watching last week. Actually, it was earlier this week. Was Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace, and you'll see, you know, the same thing where you have those reds and those greens, and those colors represented in mood and stuff like that. And that was like in '64 or something like that, I think it was. So you can kind of see where that influence came from. But I also think too that even came from, I want to say, I could be wrong here, but like in Vertigo, you had that same thing. You had the kind of flash between red and green.
Oh yeah, red. Yeah, to show panic. Yeah. Obviously, red, green, different kinds of backgrounds and visuals and stuff like that. No, it was not anywhere near as stylized as this.
No, but you can see the lineage.
Oh, absolutely. And again, this seems like one of those things that like modern cinema has like almost completely forgotten about this. Now it's more about getting as realistic looking an image as possible, as opposed to getting the style and the mood and the feel of it right.
You know, the other film, the most recent film I can see that did this was one we reviewed not too long ago. Well, it's actually been a while now. Was
Vamp?
Vamp.
There you go.
Yes. Well, with the shitty Dutch angles, and everything was red and green everywhere all the time.
But
of course, you know, that whole town was a nightmare town. So in that context, it kind of works. Sorry, guys. I take back what I said in that movie. That movie still sucks, though, and I still hate Dutch angles.
But so that'll be. I mean, this is a style masterpiece, and actually, I think this probably the example of the film that most people bring up. And there's a ton of giallo films that kind of established a lot of this visual language. But this film crystallized it, especially for the horror genre. And so it was. I'm almost wondering if Dario Argento himself got sick of it, because like he did this and it was such a big deal. This film was a huge deal, by the way. This movie came out in 1977, and Jessica Harper, who plays the lead in this, she was also the lead female in Phantom of the Paradise. Which I'm sure you know. But she was offered this film and a role in Woody Allen's, she was offered this. She turned down a role in Annie Hall to be in this film. She went. She was offered the role of in Annie Hall. She was offered this script by Dario Argento. She She read the script. She went. She found a copy of one of the Animal Trilogy films. She specifically mentions which one it is, but I don't remember what it is. I think it was the girl with the crystal plumage. She loved the film so much, she immediately was like, "This is the movie I'm doing next." So yeah, she turned down Woody Allen to go do this film. So
smart choice, Jessica Harper.
Yes. And so you got that going on. Did anybody else in this go on to anything big here?
I don't know. There's too much to cover to get granular in anybody else except for the main star.
But yeah, no. This film is an absolute masterpiece. It is visually stunning.
Yes.
Now there's a recent 4K release of this that was just done, and they did a full restoration on it, and it's beautiful.
There was a remake of this in 2018 with what's her name?
Tilda Swinton and
the girl from Kick-Ass.
Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah, not Chloe Sevigny.
I tried watching. I didn't get very far into it. Not that it was bad, but it just doesn't have the film language that this has.
I'm gonna say that actually, technically, it's a reboot-quel, in that it is a remake, but it is also a sequel, and it's actually, I think, one of the best reboot-quels that's been made. Like Jurassic World is a reboot-quel. They're rebooting this franchise. They're kicking it off, but all that stuff is still in continuity. The newer Susperia, it's a bit more patient of a film. It is definitely geared towards a bit more modern cinema sensibilities as far as how they time and pace things, and there is a bit more talking in that one. There is much more exposition. But Tilda Swinton is spectacularly good in it. I actually own that one. I own the original and this one.
Wow.
And I'm going to say that while I realize it's not going to necessarily appeal to fans of the original, if you are a horror fan in general, I would recommend you check it out, because to me, it's definitely, the juice was worth the squeeze on that one. It's one of the few horror films that's actually made for an adult audience, not for a PG-13 audience, and like, oh, hey, we showed you some stuff that your parents would not like you watching. No, it's just like, you know what, this is for grown-ups. Go away, kids. So it's bedtime. So yeah, that's the other reason why I would recommend it. It's unashamedly here's the movie we're setting out to make. And they made it, and they didn't compromise it, and they didn't like trim anything out. And it's got a couple of really disturbing scenes in it that I really enjoy, and it ties to this one really well, I think.
Well, I'm going to have to go backtrack and watch that again.
I would
right
say,
now, it's not a recommend for me, but maybe we'll revisit it in the review.
I was going to say, you need to finish watching the whole thing before you poo-poo on it.
Now, this one is a wholehearted recommend. Absolutely. Watch it. After you watch this review, watch this movie. I love it. It's great. It's definitely one of those. The style is the substance in this,
yes,
and then everything else is just the seasoning on top.
I'm going to say that, you know what, there is a coherent plot here. There is some really solid performances in this one. The style is most definitely like, you know, turned up to 11 on this, and the other items are like in the 7 and 8 territory, but it doesn't detract from the film. It doesn't take anything away from it at all. It's just one of those. You've got to start it at the beginning, and you've got to sit through the entire thing. You can't like get up and go to the bathroom or go chit-chat with someone on the phone or text your buddies. You need to sit and watch. And you need to watch every frame of this, because the more you watch it, the more you're going to get pulled into it. And the other thing is, watch it on the biggest screen you can find and turn out all the damn lights, because this movie will creep you out. This movie will scratch that itch. If you want something that's just going to maybe give you some bad dreams, this is your jam right here. So high recommend from me, high praise from me. And I think that this is a Dario Argento. This is one of his many masterpieces back when he was in his absolute heyday. So yeah, all day long.
Yeah, people talk about this, and it's on movie lists for a reason. You know, so there you are.
There you go.
All right.
So
with that being said, we're going to move on to our second in the trilogy, Inferno, right after this.
I do not know what price I shall have to pay for breaking what we alchemists call silentium. The life experiences of our colleagues should warn us not to upset laymen by imposing our knowledge upon them. The book!
What?
The only true mystery is that our very lives are governed by dead people.
Back with 1980s Inferno. This one also written and directed by Dario Argento. Cinematography is by Romano Albini. I don't speak Italian when I was Italian. I'm sorry.
So,
starring Irene Miracle as Rose, and Lee McCluskey as Mark, and Eleonora. You say it.
Eleonora Giorgi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's our Sarah in this film, because there's a Sarah in every one of these.
Yes. This is the most and least hot Sarah in all of the films. So, and I look, hate on me all you want, but at the end of the day, I'm right.
Yeah. Music in this one was composed by Keith Emerson. We forgot to mention the previous one.
Oh,
that
Goblin.
music was done by Goblin. But, oh well.
Goblin.
Yeah, I mean,
even
exactly.
Bruno knew. But this, okay, Susperia was a fever dream. This one is more fever and less dream. This one is actually hard to follow a little bit. You've got to watch this one twice to like soak up everything that's going on in it.
Yeah.
I know, because I just watched it twice. So, That all being said, it doesn't help that they're skipping around a lot because
yes, there's a lot of jumping around from location to location, from character to character.
Yeah, because this starts off with
it starts off with Rose, and she's is already suspecting something's going on where she's living in, because she's at this bookkeeper's place. She's got the mother's book.
And this one, wait. First off, we should establish there's 3 mothers. They all had a house built for them by this architect who was also an alchemist.
I do not know what price I shall have to pay for breaking what we alchemists call silentium. I, Varelli, an architect living in London, met the 3 mothers and designed and built for them 3 dwelling places. One in Rome, one in New York, and a third in Freiburg, Germany.
And he built one house in Germany, one house in New York, and one house in Rome.
Yeah.
And each of the 3 mothers lives there, and they all had their houses built specifically to help them facilitate the type of magic that they specialized in.
Mater Suspiriorum, the mother of sighs and the oldest of the 3, lives at Freiburg. Mater Lacrimarum, the mother of tears and the most beautiful of the sisters, holds rule in Rome. Mater Tenebrarum, the mother of darkness, who is the youngest and cruelest of the 3, controls New York.
The beginning of this movie is spectacular. There's almost no dialogue, if I'm not mistaken. There's
dialogue. There's dialogue between her and the bookshop person, because that's in this one. This is where you get your basic information about the mothers. Is right there at the very beginning, and there's like 3 clues in there. Like the first clue.
The land upon which the 3 houses have been constructed will eventually become deathly and plague-ridden. So much so that the area all around will wreak horror. And that is the first key to the mother's secret. The second key to the poisonous secret of the 3 sisters is hidden in the cellar under their houses. There you can find both the picture and the name of the sister living in that house. The third key can be found under the soles of your shoes.
But it's important to know that those clues, because in that opening sequence with Rose, after she's done with the bookkeepers, she knows one of the clues is, okay, you got to go down the cellar, and in the cellar, you'll find one of the secrets. Well, she goes down the cellar of a building, and down in there, she drops her key into this hole and then the floor, and it's like wet. And then she's like, well, fuck, I gotta get my key. So she gets down in there, and it's this room.
Yes.
And then it's filled with water, and she gets her key, and as she's swimming down to get her key, you see the picture of the mother and Madre Tenebrae on it.
Yeah.
I missed that. Because I was like, what's the whole point of the scene? It's beautifully shot. It's super neat. It's super fucking creepy.
Yes.
But what's the significance of it? Because you never see that room again. And it wasn't until I watched it again, I caught that one little detail.
Twice. Remember that. Twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm going to say the rotting corpse freaked me out. Watched it because I had never seen this one before. I'd seen Susperia before, but this one I had never actually watched before. And when that corpse came into frame, I like jumped back just a little bit. It got me. All right, no shame in that one.
Yeah.
But then I wasn't expecting Rose to actually get out. She did.
She did.
But you start to notice the visual language on this one, in that there is a lot of reptiles. Snakes and lizards specifically are plastered all over this one. The black and white and red colors come back into play in this one. In that room, when she's in the underwater room, you notice everything in the room is gold or red or black or white. And so, yeah, there's a million details in here that are all plugged in for a reason, which is why I'm saying you need to watch this 2 times to get all this. But
so
then, what's that?
I was just going to continue with the
I was going to say, but Rose gets out. We don't actually know what happens to Rose. We know she writes a letter, and then there's something creepy
no, you
that
do
happens.
know what happens to Rose.
Well,
So
we find out what happens to Rose.
Yeah.
She sends a letter to her brother, Mark. Her brother, Mark, is studying musicology in Rome. And if I'm not mistaken, while he gets the letter, one of the other mothers shows up in class with a cat. I believe that is actually supposed to be the third mother, the one that's in Rome, the one that's in the Mother of Tears. I guess that would be. She's the most attractive of the mothers, and she makes her presence known. And like the first time I watched this, I thought, oh, well, that's the witch that's in the New York building. No. She's just checking up on things to see how her sisters are doing. That's not her. She doesn't come into play this movie. Not yet. But he gets a letter from his sister, and then there's the weirdness with the Mother of Tears in the classroom, and he leaves because he feels ill, and this girl, Sarah.
The Sarah of the film, finds the letter, reads the letter,
yes,
and decides to do some investigating on three mothers. So
yes,
she goes to the library, checks out the book on the mothers,
yes,
and then she's trying to find her way out, and she stumbles upon this weird, creepy fucking dude doing some alchemy down in the fucking basement.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, I can't find my way out. Yeah, use the other door. And then he looks in the mirror and notices she has a mother's book, and that's like, shit is gonna get fucking real.
Yeah.
The book!
She runs into a newscaster in the elevator back up to her apartment and invites him to come back to her place. And he's thinking, score, and she's thinking, no. She leaves him in the living room. The lights go out while she's on the phone trying to call Mark to say, hey, you dropped your letter. And then we are treated to one of, I think, most disturbing kills in all three of the films, because he gets it and then she gets it, and his is gory enough.
Carlo?
But there's the knife hit when she gets stabbed, and it got me. It got me good.
Sarah dies.
Yes.
And I think then we jump back
We jump back to Rose.
Yeah.
And basically, Rose, shit, is this when Rose dies, if I'm not mistaken?
I think Rose dies next
Rose
here,
dies here, which was kind of like, because, Rose was, she didn't have a lot of dialogue, but she was an intriguing character. She was interesting, and she had a copy of the book, too. And the alchemist was basically trying to get all of them so that he could get them all back to the library and not collect any of those late fees, because that shit gets expensive when you've got four. Because he takes her copy of it, but then he also goes to Killian's, the library, the antique shop across the place where she got the original copy of the book, and he steals his copies of the books as well.
Yeah.
And so Rose.
Now I can't remember how Rose dies. Does she get stabbed as well?
Rose is in the. Hang on a second. If I'm not mistaken, Rose is in the basement, and she's trying to climb through the window, and he takes the window and he smashes it down onto her neck several times until her head pops off. We go to Killian's. Killian realizes there's somebody in his antique store, and he thinks, oh, it's just those damn cats that are all over the place that are coming from that damn building across the street.
Damn cats.
You know what? I'm going to go have a word with those ladies about their damn cats, because they're getting everywhere.
It's disgusting. There must be dozens of them. They walk right into my shop. Last night, one of them scratched me and broke an expensive statue.
And then we find out, no. He starts collecting, he goes across the street, he yells at the witch, and like, if you don't do something about these cats, I'm gonna. He goes back to his place, he starts collecting the cats, and he puts them all in a burlap sack, and he goes to I guess
to drown them in the river.
I guess, I was gonna say, is it a pond or a river?
No, it's a fucking river.
Yeah, But
Yeah. And anyway, so when he's traveling in the river, he trips and falls because he's a cripple.
Yeah.
And a bunch of rats come out and start gnawing on him. And he's yelling for help, And then you see the roach coach right down the street. And here comes the butcher and the roach coach. And he gets himself some free meat.
Yeah.
Cutting up the fucking bookstore guy.
So, it was quick. Well, no, it wasn't.
No, it was brutal. It was excruciating brutal.
Then we come back to Mark because he's the only character left alive.
Yeah. And I think at this point, he travels to New York.
Yes, he travels to New York. He's
And then
supposed to visit with his sister, but his sister, nobody's seen her. She hasn't come back, and that's when he meets Sarah. And Sarah and Rose were friends.
No.
Yeah.
No. He meets Eloise.
Well, first.
Yeah, he meets Eloise. Because at this point, Sarah's already dead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sarah's already dead.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Eloise is the neighbor.
Yes.
To Rose.
Was that you?
Yes. I was calling Rose. I saw the lights on and thought maybe she was back. I'm her friend. I live upstairs. My name is Elise Delon Van Adler. I've been living here for 5 years, alone.
I'm sorry.
And so
just thought they all were named Sarah.
Yeah. So Eloise is like, I think, like some minor royalty of.
They call her the Duchess or the Countess or something like that. I don't know if she's royalty.
No, she is royalty
Okay.
because later they kill her, steal her jewels. Spoilers.
Yeah, but I know that her husband is constantly gone.
Yeah.
She's left in this apartment by herself. She's very bored and very lonely, and that's why she becomes friends with. She's slumming it with all the people that live in this rent-controlled dump.
But anyway, she knows there's some weird things going on there, too. And her and Mark kind of discuss some shit.
Yeah.
I'm sure I stepped on blood. Did you notice the door handle was broken?
Yes, I did.
I want to tell you something. I used to wonder about Rose's ravings. She's convinced that this building is in some way connected with those 3 mothers. Aside from that, but I, too, have begun to feel very nervous and uneasy lately. It's as if I were constantly being watched. And at times, I think I actually feel a presence. As if someone were in the room with me. I am a nervous wreck and need a lot of rest. Did you hear that laugh?
Because when she first meets Mark, she steps on a puddle of blood. She thinks it's paint, but then she realizes that's actually blood.
Yeah.
And then
they find the little tubes that you can speak into that makes it sound like your voice is coming from all over the place inside of each of the apartments.
And that's how her and Rose communicated.
Yes. Yes. So they kind of start letting you in on the building secrets, that the buildings are not at all what they appear to be, and that they have all kinds of hidden features and weirdness there. Okay, I'm just going to say this right now. Mark is a boring watch. Mark is one of the most poorly realized characters in all 3 of these films. And I mean, like a long shot, but he's wearing tan and he's got the right, mustache for the role. So I guess that makes it okay.
Well, anyway, so Mark and Eloise Carr start snooping around and shit like that. Mark gets knocked out and dragged off. Yeah. And then Eloise, right?
Eloise gets, yeah. That's when they decide to go ahead and off Eloise because she's giving away the secrets. She knows a little bit too much. And Mark is already looking for his sister and you know what, he might expose, what's going on in this building for real. So they decide that they're going to have to whack him too.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're in Rats, Night of Terror, people get pummeled with rats. In this one, Eloise gets pummeled with cats. Like, cats are literally thrown at Eloise. Cats come all over the place. This poor woman, the poor cats. Italians give zero fuck about animal rights.
So I'm just going to say this. There is literally one shot in this film, and you can clearly see the production assistant's arms throwing the cat. Like, they come into frame for just a second. If you blink, you'll miss it. But I saw it, Dario, and I can't unsee it. And I'm just going to say, hilarious. So, I'm not a cat person.
So Eloise dies. For some reason, to let Mark live, you see him, they wake him up later, they give him some water and shit like that, try to wake him up.
I think they're trying to bring him in to their control because, I don't know, reasons.
Yeah, it's one of the few things. it's actually one of the many things that don't make sense in this particular
They
movie.
don't want to kill him, but they do want to kill him, but they'll kill him if they have to. But,
I don't know.
all right.
Plot armor. Italian plot armor.
Yeah,
It's
essentially.
That's the thing I got for you.
Tan plot armor.
Yeah, exactly. He's wearing the right clothes, right mustache.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to say it's those sweet bell bottoms they got out of their life.
So anyways, so Mark discovers the third clue under the heel of his feet. He discovers there's a kind of like a false floor. It's not really like a false floor. Really, it's just a space between floors, really. And any normal
that
building,
lets him down
there's
into
space
a
between
corridor
floors.
system that's hidden inside the building.
And then he stumbles upon the architect.
Yeah.
The guy that actually designed and helped build these homes and shit
I
like that.
loved this part of the film. This was an exposition dump in the classic sense, but this was engrossing. I was like hanging on every word that was going on in this particular part. So yeah, I kind of really loved this portion of the film.
You found a way down, I see. And now I suppose you know who I am.
No, I don't.
I built the houses for the three mothers. Houses which became their eyes and ears. Then I buried myself here.
My sister. Where is my sister?
Come nearer. They should not hear you.
So anyways, he gives his exposition dump. And he's like, hey, come a little closer, because we don't want the mothers to hear this shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hurt you. I'm an old man. I'm a cripple. I got a little thing I need to talk through, like the guy from Phantom of the Paradise.
How's that? Try it.
And he tries to inject him. Mark gets away, knocks the guy out, and he chokes to death on his microphone.
His voice box thing, which is a nice, creepy little touch.
It was really nice.
It was disturbing to see him hanging there and it's pulling out on his throat. That was fascinating. And then Mark attempts to escape. After he kills the alchemist, and then he actually...
Not the alchemist, the architect.
I'm sorry, the architect, who is an alchemist, but that's neither here
No,
nor
he's just
there.
an architect.
We'll get there.
I do not know what price I shall have to pay for breaking what we alchemists call silentium.
He says he's a slave to them, so I'm sure he does other shit for him, too.
I was going to say, I would say more servant than slave, because he's there quite against his will. Well, he's not quite there against his will.
Yeah, he kind of is, because the person wheeling in and out, the supposed nurse, is, sorry, spoilers, the mother of the house.
Well, yeah.
Yes, Mother Tenebrae.
That's a lot of attention from
because he writes,
Queen number 2.
When he first meets Mark, he writes on his briefcase,
Mater. Yeah, Mater.
His mother. But anyways, long and short of this one, he discovers the secret room of Mother Tenebrae, who ends up being the nurse. She gives a brief little exposition dump as well.
You think it's magic? No. You were looking for me, just like your sister. This is what you wanted. I'm coming to get you.
Then she reveals her true form, which is a little hokey.
Tell me who you are!
The three mothers. Haven't you understood? Mater Tenebrarum, Mater Lacrimarum, Mater Susperiorum. But men call us by a single name. A name which strikes fear into everyone's heart. They call us Death!
Ah! Death!
That's only the cat.
It looks very Spirit of Halloween.
Yes,
but
very much so.
This is the scene that they needed to spend more money on, and it was very obvious. Dario Argento was like, I'm out. I'm tapped.
The money, she's gone.
I borrow your bathrobe, no? I give it back. I wash it, then I give it back. But somehow it works. I don't know why.
Well, anyway, so how this ends is, so he meets her, she gives this exposition dump, she disappears into the side of the mirror, talks a little bit more, and then she comes out as the skeleton in the robe. And then earlier in the movie, two of the people that work at the in the building they whack somebody and steal the jewels.
All that stuff.
La Comtesse, that bitch.
She thought she'd hidden it so no one could find it. I spent a good 15 minutes looking for it.
You've been drinking.
Not a drop.
Eloise had a servant, the front desk lady, and him, and the nurse were caught chit-chatting at certain points throughout the film. So he's in on everything that's going on, and he's also the one that helps make her death look like, she just left and took all of her jewels with her, but then they whack him.
Yes, they whack him.
And then they kill the lady, the front desk lady as well.
Yeah.
Because she has a particularly spectacular death because, first off, the tall women burn longer, and second off, that's a woman that knows how to do a swan dive. I mean...
So anyways, her death causes the building to catch fire.
Yes.
And then so at the end there, when Mark meets Mother Tenebrae, the building is already starting to burn down, starting to collapse.
He has escaped the building too. He comes dancing outside, and then he's just like, yeah, because it's a 70s, 80s film, It's just, like combing out his mustache, and he's all, dynamite.
Yeah. So the end of this one is really weak. I hate the end of this movie because it kind of ends. To me, it's open-ended. Yes, you see her kind of get crushed, but she was like alive and kicking. She could have very well just magically disappeared out of this one.
I'm going to say
I don't know.
She's most definitely dead because the whole point of this trilogy is the killing of the mothers. And I think that once the building had started to come apart, I think they partly are real people. They're partly their visage, the skeleton look, or the old crumbly looking lady look in Susperia, and they are partly the buildings. So it's kind of like a trilogy of trilogies, so to speak. So you've got that going on, and because their essence is incorporated in each of the three buildings, and that's stated plainly and flat out. And once you basically take the knock on their current modern physical form, and you take a knock on the building that they're in, then you take a knock on their actual real visage, you can kill them. And they actually do mention this in the follow-up film to this. This film feels like they ran out of money, or it feels like they filmed an ending and were told, no, we can't release it like that, and he just went back and half-assed it. And I don't know which.
I don't know, but yeah, I agree with you. I think this thing was edited in such a way that it's very disjointed.
Very.
I agree with you what you said earlier. It's kind of a hard story to follow. It doesn't make much sense. It feels like things were sliced out.
It most definitely feels like things were sliced out, number one. Number two, it almost feels like, when you watch a movie that you heard had a ton of production problems, and that the studio came in and took the picture over and decided to reshoot stuff and put it back together, and you can tell that this is not the film that this was intended to be. That's exactly how this film feels. This feels like Dario Argento had a vision, he had a story, he was going to do it. Susperia was a success, why the hell not? And I feel like Dario Argento went so far beyond the pale that they were all like, whoa, reel it in there, big dog. We got to redo a couple things. He's like, no, I'm Dario Argento and you're not. And they were all like, we're 20th Century Fox and you're not. And I think we know who won on that one, because I feel like in a vault somewhere there is a version of this film that is exactly what he had in mind, and it is every bit as beautiful and compelling. And my argument is supported by the fact that it took him 27 years before he bothered to do the follow-up to it. And he had already done Susperia, so he already spelled it out. I'm doing a trilogy. There's 3 witches and 3 cities and 3 this and 3 that and 3 Sarahs, because why not? And, Clint Eastwood coming along because 3 mules for Sister Sarah. And, there was so much going on here. And the fact that 1983 did not have, the Mater de Lacrimae or whatever, tears, Mother of Tears. Something happened. I would love to know the story on that. I'm sure we're probably not going to hear about it for another 10 years, but there's something happened.
Yeah.
Because the next film that he did was called Tenebrae, but it had nothing to do with this series of films.
which threw me for a loop, because I watched Tenebrae, however you pronounce it, I was like, wait a second, there's no witches in this movie. Wait a second, is this part of the Mother's Trilogy? So I had to go back and do a little research. Like, oh, this isn't part of this. The next movie doesn't come till way later.
Yes. And that's the perfect segue. So, Mother of Tears, 2007, coming up next. Stay tuned.
When I was a little girl, my mother told me that one day a witch would find me and take me away. I never believed her. I do now. Because she's come for me.
In the heart of a modern city, a buried secret will be unearthed.
Please help me! Hello, Sarah.
Mother of Tears.
Who wants to eat the girl?
So, film number 3 in the Three Witches trilogy, Three Mothers trilogy, is The Mother of Tears, which is Mater de Lacrimeum.
Yeah. This one came out in 2007. Was directed by Argento, also written by Argento, and then 2 other people. It doesn't matter because this movie sucks. Cinematography in this one doesn't matter because the cinematography in this one sucks.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. This is the most straightforward plot of any of the films, and it's 2007 film, and it looks like a direct-to-video film. So
Yes,
I'm sure that the budget on this was next to nothing. On this.
If our lovely PA can give us some notes on our, budget here in a second.
The budget was $3.5 million. It made $3.1 million.
Oh, well, there you go. So
almost made its money back.
Yes, almost made its money back. But this one also, I think, stars Dario Argento's daughter?
Yes, Asia Argento as Sarah. So Sarah finally gets the leading role in this one. And then also has Adam James as Michael Pierce and Christian, whatever his name is, as Detective Enzo. And those people don't matter.
Yeah, no, they don't. What does matter is that Dragonetti was in the first film because he was the shrink that Susan talked to, and then he appears in this one as the alchemist.
Yeah.
So
Udo something. The guy here.
Yeah, who was Dragonetti in the Blade films, who, Frost killed. But plot-wise, this isn't bad. It's got an interesting premise behind it. It's got an interesting story. There's a priest, he finds a box, and they're basically moving stuff. They're building something onto a church, and while they're digging, they find a grave that was unmarked, and there is a urn that is on top of the coffin, and it's got a bunch of religious and pagan symbols on it, and so they send it to the museum, and when they open up the urn, all hell breaks loose, and a bunch of demons show up, and they kill the one lady, but Asia Argento, who also works in the museum, she gets away, and she goes and tells the cops, hey, here's what I saw, and they're like, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And as it turns out, she has unleashed the Mother of Tears, who, again, is the most beautiful and the most brutal of all of the mothers, which that's saying something. And then shit just kind of goes off the rails all over Rome as the effects of the Mother of Tears starts to affect everybody, and violence is happening all over the place, and people are getting killed and stabbed and robbed and shot, and the witches are all basically coming together, and we wind up with yet the third house, another copy of the book, a bunch of alchemists that are trying to help out, and Asia Argento dressed in tan, but with a green dress underneath. Looking good, too. But she shows up, she burns the Mother of Tears' favorite concert shirt, which then makes her vulnerable to being killed, and it burns to the ground. The end. There, you want it fast? I think that covers all the bases.
That does it. Sure does.
This one introduces a lot of elements that were not involved in the other films. First and foremost, we now have psychic phenomena. We have ghosts that if you blow,
force
baby
ghosts.
Mommy!
Sarah. No, it can't be. Mommy? Sarah. Oh, Mommy! You can't touch her, or she'll disappear.
I was going to say, that felt, every time she yelled mommy to the ghost, it was like, I got a giggle out of me, because it was like, woman, you're in your mid-30s and you're calling your deceased mother mommy. It's not working. You, mom, mother, whatever. Mommy? No. Did not land for me on that one. we have the child kidnapping and the witches that are leaving their signs. The whole other two films, they're basically trying to pass by and be completely ignored or unnoticed. And this one, they're like at the airport and laughing and giggling at people. It's
fucking Wicca Fest. It's fucking going on in fucking Rome. Like all the witches are coming out of the fucking woodwork.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like you haven't seen shit like this since Witches Night in Kimswick.
I was actually thinking more like The Craft, but dumb. But
no, Witches Night in Kimswick is actual witch night that happens in the town of Kimswick here. Yeah, so
really?
That's a real thing.
Okay.
They're not real witches.
Okay, but
Or
yeah.
are they? Anyways,
I'm just gonna say this: the cinematography is boring.
Yes.
In this film,
incredibly boring. It's not just like any other fucking film. Like
Yes.
any other film. Nope. No lights. No nothing crazy. There's no mood set up in this whole fucking movie at all whatsoever.
Straight flat shots.
Yes. Boring.
On everything, no interesting compositions, no
No.
interesting use of the camera.
No.
And, you know, Asia Argento does everything she can with the material she's given. Her performance is fine. Dragonetti's performance is fine.
It's a little over the top.
A little, but I think that's the directing. I'm going to say that...
I will agree with you. I will agree with you, because somebody could have easily told her to dial it back.
Yes, not just told her to dial it back, but like given her, like I said, whoever wrote the script and put mommy in there was obviously not like tuned into the fact of how old this girl was supposed to be and how she's supposed to be behaving in these instances.
No! No! Don't go, Mommy! Don't leave me! Mommy! Please! Mommy!
The bit at the crypt, when they get into the house and they realize that it's actually the Roman crypts and blah, blah, it's okay looking. The problem that I have is that their timeline is like really wrong, because apparently the Three Mothers have only been around for 1,000 years, and I'm thinking Rome was 2,000 years ago, guys. You might want to push your numbers a little bit on that one. I mean, I realize that in common people parlance, 1,000 years was a long time ago, but Rome was founded 700 years BC. So just throwing that out there for you. The boyfriend, Paul, Michael, and then they had the stepkid. That was rather weak and weird and just.
I will give it kudos for them, killing the baby off screen. But they kill the baby, so that's pretty bold.
There's the mom that actually throws the kid into the river.
Oh,
that
yeah, I forgot about that. It did have some gruesome deaths. That was gruesome. And then when she smashes that witch's head in the train was pretty brutal.
That one, when you get to the end of the film and they've got the one kid chained up on the wall who's the servant to the alchemist, and they lop his arm off. I'm still like going, how the hell did they do that? Or did they just have an amputee that they like put a prosthetic on? It was very convincing looking on that. The makeup effects are spectacularly good in this one. And again, from a narrative standpoint, this film is easy to follow. But the mood is wrong. The visuals are wrong. I wanted to be on board with it, and I didn't hate this film. I'm just going to say this. I wasn't angry that I watched it. It does wrap up the story. It does tie it all together. They do get the references right. And I hate it when a sequel comes along 10 years after the fact and they try to rewrite shit. They didn't do any of that. Yeah. They just tried to bump up, like, here's the Force Ghost powers and all of that. The other thing is that the Mother of Tears, all the mothers are, like, shown. They're snuck in. Mm-hmm. You see them. You go back and you go, oh, that was her, after the film is over with. This one, not so much. And I'm going to say that the Mother of Tears that they showed in Inferno was better looking than the Mother of Tears that they showed in this one.
Yeah.
He did the best with what he had. It was very obvious that he had a limited litter to pick from, and she was willing to have the shirt ripped off and show her boobies, so she got the job. And that shirt, literally, it looked like somebody went to the craft shop, bought a maroon shirt, wrote some shit and glitter glue on it, and then they packed it into an urn. And I was giggling on that one. I was like, oh, you just burned her favorite concert shirt and poof, witches be gone. Yeah. It is, if you like bad movies, Oh yeah, you want to watch this one. If you like Bruno Mattei, oh yeah, you're home, baby. But if you like serious film, if you want a solid conclusion to this ain't it, boss.
Well, it gave you a conclusion. It was stupid.
It did.
It was stupid. How that bitch actually died was ridiculous. Conveniently, the very pointy obelisk falls through the hole, and literally which gets penetrated.
Dario Argento had just seen Flash Gordon. He'd been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off.
He saw that. He saw The Exorcist with the whole urn thing and stuff like that going on there, that thing being unearthed. There's like a lot of things. Like, this film seems very derivative, is really what it boils down to.
Yeah, well, he's borrowing from himself, and not in an interesting and creative way. It almost feels like they went to him and they said, look, we want you to do a movie. It's going to be the third movie in your Susperia films because you know what? The Blu-ray sets are doing really well, and everybody wants to know how it all ends. They do this to a lot of creators. Yeah. A lot. They did this with, Isaac Asimov. They're like, here's an advance on a book, and it's got to be a Foundation book because everybody wants to know how Foundation is, and you haven't written a new book on that one. This feels exactly like that situation.
I know. It feels like fan fiction, and they borrowed from Argento, and that's why he's got a writing credit.
So,
I don't know.
You're not wrong on that one, but I also feel like I get to choose the actress. Well, who would it be? Oh, my daughter. She wants to be an actress. No. And again, Asia Argento is fine. She actually did a solid job with this. I have nothing bad to say about her performance. She's perfectly lovely. She gives it all. When she's climbing through the catacombs and the funky, gross water splashing down on her, and she's got to keep plowing through it. That's a brave woman right there, because I wouldn't walk through that nasty shit. Number one. Number two, stunt-wise, there was some interesting stuff. Like I said, the train bit was brutal. It really, really was. The bit where her boyfriend gets taken over by the witches and they go back to his apartment and he tries to kill her and she sets him on fire. That
was probably the best part of the movie. Up until the point where her mother comes back for like the second time after she said I can't come back anymore.
Yeah.
And drags them to hell.
Seems like your mom going, you keep it up and I'm not going to give you your Christmas presents. Yeah. Same shit. I'm just saying. There are good things in this film.
Yeah. The deaths are the good things in this film. Everything else around this film is kind of whatever. Again, because there's the style is lacking in this one. The story is passable. It's whatever.
Here's a question for you.
I don't know. It's just compared to the other two, it's like, to me, it's like The Exorcist 3, where the first two, they're very similar in style. You can tell they're created by the same person or have this, that something common. By the time you get to the third one, decade or so later, it doesn't fit.
Wait, are we talking The Exorcist here?
Both. I'm talking both. Exorcist 3, yes. There's element that tie together, but from a visual standpoint, from a set standpoint, and the way it's directed, the way all that stuff does not match the first Exorcist.
No.
Or the other two.
No.
So it's its own thing in a sense, even though it ties into the other two. It just feels so divorced. And that's how this feels. This feels so divorced from the other two movies.
Okay, but The Exorcist 3 is a masterpiece?
No, The Exorcist 3 fucking sucks.
I'm going to say you need to rewatch that one because The Exorcist 3 is spectacularly good. I've owned it on video. I've owned it on DVD. I own it on Blu-ray. I own it in 4K. So, yeah, I'm going to tell you that it has been a favorite of mine for a long time. And the biggest chunk of why I love it is Brad Dourif.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to review that movie.
Okay, well, I'm okay with that. I've got no issues with that one. I'm happy. I'm here to talk about that. I'm going to say
so we'll park that one. It's going to be in a review coming.
But that all being said, everything about this film feels compromised. It feels either limited by budget or scope or passion or what he had available with him to do it.
Yeah.
It's an okay ending to it, but it's not the ending that these films deserve. you can, when you watch Susperia, it's a damn mess. It's like a Neapolitan ice cream. You eat the chocolate ice cream, and you're like, damn, that's delicious. And then you get to the strawberry, and you're like, strawberry's pretty good. I could have used a little more strawberry in it, but it's pretty. And then you get to this one, and it's the vanilla. So I feel that is the it's still ice cream. It's still tasty. It will, scratch the itch, but is it chocolate or strawberry? No. And I think that perfectly sums up.
I think you're right.
The third film in this.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it. I would watch it again. If I was watching the Susperia, if I was watching the Three Mothers trilogy, I would still watch all three of them. I wouldn't be all like, we're just going to skip that last one because it's bad. No, I'll watch all three of them, and I'm just like going to start drinking about the midway point of the second film so that I am good and shit-faced when I get to the third film so that I can yell shit at the screen while I'm watching it.
That's a solid strategy. That's a solid strategy. I'll agree with that strategy because that'd be the only way I'd make it through this film again. It's not a recommend for me.
I didn't hate it.
The other two are recommend. I recommend and buy for Spirit. You know what? I'm getting to the wrap up on this.
Yes.
So we're gonna pause it right here, and when we come back, we'll give our overall thoughts on the whole thing.
Shit, I thought that's what we were doing.
Mother, are you playing? Let's go.
So our lovely production assistant filled us in, and it turns out that Argento was attempting to get this film made since '84. There were multiple scripts that were pitched and thrown out multiple times, either because of financials or because they basically just didn't want to do it. This is actually the fourth version of the script? The fourth version of this story that Argento attempted to tell. He did it all on $3.5 million, and that's 2007 money. It's not like the $3 million in 1980 money. Number one. Number two, there were two studios involved, and while the American production company that co-financed this really loved the version of the film that he had put, the Italian production company made huge cuts to the film, which basically lopped out a ton of stuff, including anything having to do with sex, anything having to do with cannibalism, anything having to do with the gathering of witches, anything having to do with the death of major character. So the version of this film that we got was not Argento's vision, it was what he was allowed to do. And third off, it turned out that his daughter, Asia Argento, basically did this film for next to no money because she was already famous in Italy, and she really just wanted to help her father get his vision out and on screen. So just feels like, knowing all that, does that change your opinion of this film at all?
It's a tragedy. It's still a shitty film, though.
So,
I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, I would love to see what he had on film.
Yeah.
What his cut would have been. But unfortunately, we'll never see it.
So you would give it a second go. Never say never, because there are films that keep popping up all the time of director's cuts, and not just Zack Snyder.
Well, if we get a Argento director's cut of this, yeah, absolutely, I'd watch it. But as it sits right now in its current form, no.
So, but I was gonna say,
tragic.
It is tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
Because it would have been a great cap then to what is or could have been a great trilogy. I really enjoyed Susperia a lot. I really enjoyed Tenebrae, even with its flaws and its disjointedness.
You mean Inferno? Inferno.
Sorry, yeah. I said Tenebrae, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I did. See, I did it again.
It's okay. No, and I mean, honestly, she is the name of one of the mothers. So, I mean, I understand why you keep having that metal stump because, it is part of the mythology of these films. Yeah. So why the hell he named his next film Tenebrae after? I have no idea, but he did.
But he did. But anyways, going back to that, I really enjoyed the first three films, and it just sucks to have such a lackluster third entry in this. Could have been capped off and been one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Now I'm definitely going to go and watch the Animals trilogy and see how that goes.
Oh, you'll be happy.
Because I didn't even know that was a thing until doing research on these movies here.
Those films will please you. Trust me, you will not be disappointed because it is a trilogy the way that he wanted to do it. At the peak of his power, at the peak of his fame, with getting the kind of money that he wanted to do exactly the kind of film that he wanted. And you saw Tenebrae, and that's the writer who writes a novel and then a murder that's pretty much exactly like what he had in his novel happens, and it's jacked up and it's amazing and it's fun and it's a noir, but it's actually a giallo, and I love those films. I really do. But to me, it's sad that the movie industry, number one, that cinema in general has kind of dumped Italian cinema by and large. And number two, that they would take somebody who made this much art, like legitimately. These films are art.
Yes.
They're cinema, yes, but they're a higher expression of cinema. It's different than the commercialized shit that we have gotten for so long. And the 70s were like the machine that like everybody did, like no one knew it was going to be a box office success, so screw it, let's try everything. Oh, you got an idea? Let's do that. You got an idea? Let's do that. Let's try this. Let's mix it up a little bit. Then the studios came back into prominence and they're like, well, this is what made money last time. And now we have streaming services and their AI, and oh, well, people really love stuff about cooking competitions and trash men. So we're gonna do gourmet trash man. They're coming to Netflix next year.
Hey, I like me a good cooking competition show, like the British baking show.
Yes,
I love that. Everything else, no, I'm not gonna touch.
I'm just gonna say that the algorithm driving the kind of films that directors get to make is sad.
It's a very sad state of affairs. We've been saying for a few years now, since we started this channel, that the tide is going to turn. It's going to change. We're seeing it coming.
Yeah.
The death of Disney, I mean, is there's one foot in the grave already for Disney.
You won't see the death of Disney. You'll see the breakup of Disney. You'll see the selling off of Disney because has there been a Marvel film this year? I mean, finally, there were so many duds in a row that someone was all like, maybe we should put the brakes on for a second.
Well, not just the Marvel stuff, but all their stuff. There's playing their animated stuff that's flopped. There's playing their live action stuff that's flopped. There's Star Wars flop. Everything for them is fucking flopping.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, it's a fun grave. Yeah. Will they die? No, they won't die. No. Not in that sense. But I mean, there's going to be a major overhaul for the studio system really soon.
Yeah, studios care more about commerce than art, and rather than put out a quality product, they just slap the right name on it with the right stars attached to it, and people ran to go see it, and that worked until people caught on to that's exactly what they were doing, and then it got lazy, and then it got boring, and then, oh no, we don't understand where the fans went. You know exactly where the fans went. You just didn't give a shit when you were lying in your pocket. Oh, they're disappointed? Well, I've already got their money. Ha! Hey, guess what? You don't have their money anymore. I would love to see Disney get broke up. I would love to see Disney get sold off in pieces. I doubt it'll happen. I would love to see 20th Century Fox spun off to be its own studio again.
It needs to happen. It needs to happen. And we need films like this again. We need the breakup of the studio system so we can get true art back into film.
We need fewer than 6 giant media companies controlling everything that everybody sees. And what makes me really, really sad is apparently Paramount is on the auction block right now, and Sony has a bid in on that. So we're probably going to see it concentrate even more so here very, very shortly, because one of the biggest studios is up for sale at this point. I would love to see Warner Brothers get broke up, because seriously, it's just, there's already so few channels for artists to get their movies out to people. Consolidating it and giving people fewer places to go, fewer avenues to get art out to people, it's making it worse. We need more A24s. We need more Blumhouses. I'm not saying everything they do is great or even good, but you know what? At least they've got the balls to take a chance on these, properties that no one's ever heard of. I mean, think about this. Without A24, we would not get one of what I think is potentially one of the greatest horror trilogies of our time, because we got X and then we got Pearl and now we're getting Maxine. And if the trailer for Maxine doesn't get you going, shit, the problem is you. It's not the trailer. The trailer is spectacularly good. So I am all on board on that. And
Ty West is just, Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
works for the studio that says, here's some money. Let us
Yeah.
know when you're done. We'll be over here waiting. So we need more of that.
Yeah, we need an Italian Ty West though, because I like to get some more of this. I would like to get some more Italian anything, or even if it's inspired by Italian. I just want some good horror, some good suspense horror, and you know, something that has some good style behind it.
The guys that did The Void actually decided to do their own giallo film.
Really?
Yes, they did.
I own
it on Blu-ray.
What's it called?
B, what's the name of the? Hang on one second. I want to say it's the editor, or something like that. But I'm not.
I believe it is the editor.
Is it the editor?
Let me take a look though.
That name sounds familiar.
The editor.
Yes. Okay.
I think Scott mentioned this.
Yeah.
Movie.
So the name of the film is The Editor. I own it on Blu-ray already.
Okay.
Like it was one of those like sight unseen. Like, oh wait, this is the guys that did The Void. Bought and then I watched it. And I was like, okay. First off, it is a giallo film. It is. Oh, they not only like got the visual style and elements of it, they got the plot and the character style of it. It feels so good. It's the kind of blanket you just want to wrap yourself up in and roll around on and then go to sleep with a smile on your face. The editor,
have nightmares.
Yes. But I will tell you this.
But they're Italian nightmares.
It doesn't feel like a knockoff. It feels like they got it. They knew what they were wanting to make. They made it. They made it exactly the way they wanted to make it. But more importantly than that, they understood that giallo is not just a look. It's not just the way you set the camera up. It's not just the way you light the scene. There's a whole, the way the characters are handled, the way the dialogue is handled, the way it's delivered, the way that the action, it is. If I told you this film came out in 1982, you'd be all like, okay, yeah, you would not question it. It's that good. So we're gonna need to watch that one.
Yeah. I mean, early giallo is very, very much just Italian take on Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
Like all the Bava stuff is very Hitchcockian. It's just told through an Italian lens.
Yes,
You know,
literally.
literally.
Absolutely.
That's it. So we're getting way off topic. Let's reel it back
Just
into
to reel it back
these
in
here.
I was gonna say, I love the first film. I appreciate the second film. I understand the third film. I understand what happened. I'm upset with it, but again, it does feel complete to me. It does feel like he finished the story. I would love to see the director's cut of this film. I would love to read the original script for this when it was
too.
the 1984 script, because it was written by the same person that did the screenplay for the other two. You know there's something there. You know there's something that is good. And I'm going to say in this day and age, you'll probably be able to find a copy of that script online. So I'm going to do a little bit of digging around on this one after that, just so I can give it a read, because, you know, I can't wait to read stuff like The Room is Red, because I said, and they are dead. His name was Fred.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. All right, stop. Anyways.
We need to do more giallo. I was surprised that this was your pick for your Watch the World Burn. To be perfectly honest, it caught me off guard. So I know that your horizons are expanding. You're taking in a lot more films that you probably would have been all like, no. Just 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're making progress. We're making headway.
Well, I've seen bits of Susperia, but I've never seen the whole thing. And like I said, it's always on a list of greatest films, horror films of all time. It just keeps popping up and popping up and popping up. So it's like, well, why not? And it's like, oh, by the way, this is part of a trilogy. Well, that makes it more, because I even see Inferno, while it's not mentioned on lists as much, it's still seen quite a bit, it's still talked about. And then Mother of Tears, like nobody has a clue what the hell that is, and rightly so. And again, it is sad. It's a tragedy knowing now what we know, that it got hosed the way that it did. But man, them's the breaks. But I'm gonna say this. Watch them. Watch all three of them. And let us know what you think about them. Let us know what you think about Italian horror, giallos, and things like that. I guess we're going to do the editor. I definitely want to do a Bava film. We're for sure going to do a Bava film. I don't know what, but...
We have time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. You'll probably see one before you see this. I'll tell you that, because it's going to take a while to edit this one and get it out. So you'll probably see a giallo before this.
Dino De Laurentiis is our people.
Yeah. But yeah, any final thoughts for you on this one? You say
I'm glad that we did these 3 films for just a ton of reasons. I enjoyed watching all 3 of these. I really did. Good, bad, ugly. You know what? It was worthwhile. It was time well spent. And watching these weirder, more obscure, more artsy Italian films. It's just this is the kind of movie, like Inferno is not like one I would have been like, oh yeah, I gotta throw that one on. But it is one of those kind of movies that in the right mood, it catches me the right way, and it's just kind of like, I dig it. I get what they were going for. I dig how unapologetically weird it is. So yeah, I appreciate that we did this, and I'm glad that we did this one. I think this is an apt episode 54 for Watch the World Burn, and our new format for Watch the World Burn. So I'm good. I got nothing but positive things to say here, baby. So
well, I'm interested to see what our next one's going to be, because it's going to be your pick, and I don't know if we're going to stick with the same format or not, as far as like
I think
a collection of films.
I think this is solidifying that we get to do a collection, because we get to do multiple films, but we also get to we get to do a deeper dive into it, but not get overly drawn into plot or narrative, but we get to talk a bit more about why we chose them and what we liked about it. I think I dig this format a bit. So, anything else?
No. We'll catch you guys the next time.